In 1999, when my husband and I were planning our very first trip ever to Europe, we asked several of our good friends who were seasoned travelers what they thought the very best way was to beat jet lag. And we got a couple of different answers. The first school of thought was that you sleep. So whenever you get to your destination, no matter what time of day it is, you go to bed and you sleep as long as you can, hopefully for several hours. And then when you wake up, you start acclimating into that time zone from there. And I guess it just, that rest that you take kind of helps you, it makes the jet lag not to be as severe. So the second school of thought is the complete opposite. You don't sleep. You stay awake at all costs. You gut it out, you soldier through, and then that night, like about 10 o'clock when everybody else is going to bed, you go to bed and you sleep the whole night, and then you get up the next morning, boom, you're golden. No jet lag. Okay, fine. So my husband had been invited to speak at a conference in London, and it was a 5-day conference, and I was going to go with him. And we just didn't feel like we wanted to spend 2 days of the 5 days trying to get our body clocks adjusted to London time. So we decided we were going to go in a couple of days early, get through the jet lag, and then be good to go. And we decided that we were going to use the stay awake at all costs method of beating jet lag. All right. So we were really jazzed to be going to London, and we didn't sleep very much the night before we left. And then the day we're traveling, we lived in the Midwest at the time, and so we flew out of Chicago, and it was a 9 p.m. flight. So we flew direct to London, and we flew all night. So didn't sleep at all on the plane. It was crowded, and it was kind of noisy, and we didn't really sleep at all. So land in London, and it's 10 o'clock or so in the morning London time, and we get through customs, and we're feeling a little draggy because we've been flying all night and didn't sleep, but you know what? We are not sleeping. Nope, we are not doing that. So I had booked us into this sweet little bed and breakfast kind of inn thing. It was south of London. It was close to a little town, but it was out in the country. This thing was like something from a storybook. I mean, the building was 300 years old, and it originally had a thatched roof, and it had roses, and it had a pond, and this gorgeous old stone wall around it, and it had the most beautiful, soft, warm feather beds. And when I saw the feather bed, we're like, wow, that is really inviting, and if we stay here, we're going to go to sleep, and we are not sleeping. So we met the innkeeper, we checked in, met the innkeeper, threw all of our bags and briefcases and everything in that room, turned right around and left again. So we get into town and we decide that in order not to sleep, we had to stay busy. So we get on a bus and we ride down to Brighton, which is the seaside resort in south of England. It's about a 30-minute drive from this little town. And so we're in Brighton and we are seeing all the sights, and we went to Brighton Beach and we're having so much fun, and we're trying really hard not to close our eyes because we are really, really feeling it at this point. So we spent the rest of the day in Brighton, went back on the bus, and now we decide we need something to eat. It's early evening. Got into this pub and had bangers and mash, which we thought was very British of us. And then it was during this meal that I hit the wall so hard. I mean, my head hurt. I literally couldn't see straight, and my body just felt so heavy, and I just couldn't even hardly feed myself. And I said to my husband, look, I know that this is still early, and when we get to the inn, the sun isn't even going down yet, but I have got to go to sleep. And he says, me too, let's go. So I'm like, oh, thank God. So we go out and we hail a cab, and we get in the back of the cab, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm gonna go into that feather bed any minute now. And I hear the cab driver say, where to? And I look at my husband, and he looks at me. We were so tired and so jet lagged, we couldn't remember the name of the inn. We couldn't remember anything about it. We didn't remember what road it was on, and we didn't remember the innkeeper's name. We couldn't remember anything for the life of us. We just sat there. My husband says to me so sadly, I can't believe you don't remember the name of the bed and breakfast. And I said, look, at this point, I don't even remember your name, and I barely remember my own. So no, I don't remember the name of the bed and breakfast. And the cab driver's sitting there, and he finally says, I'm sorry you don't remember where you're staying, but you can't stay here in this cab. And we're like, fine, and we get out, we're in a huff, So now we're pacing back and forth on the sidewalk, mumbling to ourselves incoherently, dazed and confused. What were we gonna do? like a miracle, it hits me. I remembered that when I was like making arrangements for this little pre-conference trip, that I had used Frommers. Anybody know Frommers? So it's this series of travel guides, and in it, it tells you where to go, what to eat, where to stay. And that's where I found the inn. All the information we needed was in that book. It's the latest edition of Frommers England. So I said to my husband, we need to find a bookstore right away. So we ask, and sure enough, there's a bookstore 2 blocks down. We go tearing down there, and it's evening, right? And people are trying to close their shops up. We come bursting into this bookstore, and all wild-eyed, and I said to the woman behind the counter, "This is an emergency. Where is your travel section?" And she didn't even say anything. She just pointed. She just like that. So we go over there and we're looking. Come on, where is it? Where is it? Frommers, come on. Oh, there it was. It was the exact same book that I had used, Frommers England. So, oh, there it is. Yep, found the name of the bed and breakfast. So we wrote it down very carefully along with the phone number and everything else, hailed another cab, handed the man the whole piece of paper, because at this point we're not even speaking in complete sentences. We're just not. So we get back to the inn. We don't even get ready for bed. We don't even pull the covers back. We just look like face down on the bed. And we slept that way for 17 hours. Take that, jet lag. And so a little tip for you, a little travel tip in case, and this is not something you'll find in Frommers, when you're traveling, write down where you're staying and keep it with you. That way, if you lose your mind, you won't lose your hotel as well.